Well, needless to say, Oliver Marmol was not a huge fan of home plate umpire Ron Kulpa's strike zone on Friday night. But after their manager's fiery ejection, the St. Louis Cardinals found a way with one key swing from Nolan Arenado to get a big win over the Diamondbacks. We'll talk about it coming up on b-schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of b-schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It is Friday night, May 23rd, 2025, and that was a fun one for the St. Louis Cardinals on Friday night, rocking the City Connects for the continuation of the Friday night festivities at Busch Stadium. Remember, they've got those happy hour prices going all season long out on the Budweiser Terrace on Friday nights, and the Cardinals had a happy opener to the series against the Arizona Diamondbacks with a 4-3 win, although maybe not as happy for the manager, Oliver Marmol, who missed most of this game. Had to watch it from the clubhouse, I reckon, as in the bottom of the fourth inning, he had some choice thoughts for home plate umpire Ron Kulpa. If you missed it on Apple TV Plus on Friday night, it was a treat to watch Oliver Marmol get his money's worth after Kulpa ejected him for arguing balls and strikes from the bench. And I got to say, Ron Kulpa, he's a St. Louis guy. He's a fun guy. I've been in the radio studio before when he's been in there for interviews on shows that I've been involved in at 590 The Fan. Like listening to him talk, and I love hearing his perspective. All of that being said, he did not have a strong night behind the plate on Friday night. His strike zone was about as large as I have ever seen an MLB umpire have a strike zone, which is to say he had a bad night. Like, at least he was pretty consistent, I suppose. He was consistently getting these calls wrong, but it was unbelievable. And I guess I can't even say he was consistent, because the particular pitch that drew the ire of Oliver Marmol, where he just had to say something, he couldn't hold his tongue anymore, was a ball actually called to Alec Burleson. And I feel like because it was in almost the same spot and actually even a little maybe closer to the strike zone than the strike three call that was thrown one pitch previous from Zach Gallen to Ivan Herrera, it was one of those where I was like, you got to be kidding me. That was a better pitch than the one that he called strike three in a really key spot to Herrera with a 3-2 count. And a runner was already on base, so you would have really gotten it going potentially in that inning. And so some frustration there from Oliver Marmol boiling over. Kulpa didn't like whatever he had said from the dugout, and then the shouting match as Oli emerged from the dugout ensued. And like I said, he got his money's worth. There was, again, not an expert when it comes to lip reading, as I wrote for sportshubstl.com, but the camera work, there's enough of a quality, a clarity to those cameras on the Apple broadcast that I was able to make out pretty confidently that Oli Marmol recommended to Ron Kulpa that he should do some rapid maturation, if you will. May have told him to grow up and added some more flowery language within that recommendation in order to drive the point home, we'll say. And came across pretty loud and clear. Not so much as hearing Oli Marmol, but you could see that is maybe the recommendation, of course, that he had for home plate umpire Ron Kulpa. So it was a crazy one from that perspective. And look, I felt like the zone was bad both ways. Miles Mikolas was really good for the Cardinals yet again tonight, lowering the ERA. He's down to a 3.5 ERA now for the season. Miles Mikolas deserves his flowers. He's been phenomenal for the Cardinals. Again, you remove one bad outing, and the numbers look even better. You don't even have to do that anymore to drive the point home about how good Miles Mikolas has been, because when you look up and see a 3.5 ERA, I believe it was 3.51 after tonight's 6 innings of one-run baseball, that's good enough in and of itself. Like, you don't need to have any more qualifiers when discussing Miles Mikolas' season. He's been awesome. 3.5 ERA from the guy that for a while we were saying, hey, if he just gives you a chance to win, keeps you in the ball game, that's good enough from your number 5 starter. He's been far better than that. He has been, number 2, number 3 level for recent weeks for the St. Louis Cardinals. So kudos to Miles Mikolas. But there were a couple of calls that he benefited from. I believe it was to end the third inning a strike three call to Corbin Carroll that was as high of a strike as I have ever seen a home plate umpire call. And for the bottom of the zone to then also be very generous, Ketel Marte was the lone run for the Diamondbacks tonight. He hit Miles Mikolas for a home run to dead center field that Victor Scott II almost took away. It would have been one of the all-time home run robberies if Vic would have found a way to get it. And I think he even timed his jump pretty well. It was a home run. It was a legit home run. To time it any better than that, I still don't think Vic could have come up with the ball. Was about a 4 to 6 inches over the top of his outstretched glove, it appeared. So just a home run for Ketel Marte. But there was a moment in that at-bat even, in the fourth inning, when Marte got a strike two call on him where he kind of turned back to Kulpa and he was like, that's not low? It looked low. It looked low by about one baseball width, in my opinion. So to give the high strike that was probably a couple widths of the baseball above the zone, and then you're also giving away that low strike, I've just never seen a taller strike zone in all of my years watching baseball. So it was interesting to see the ejection moment, too, for Oli, where he comes out there and he even points over to the D-backs dugout where you can make out that he's probably arguing that exact point, which is like, you've been bad on both sides tonight, Blue. And Oli was able to get the emotions out there and show some fire. It does seem as though when Oliver Marmol gets ejected, the Cardinals respond and they perform. And ultimately that is, again, whether you credit it to the fact that Oli was ejected or otherwise, that is what played out as the sixth inning comes up and the Cardinals, it's the next time through the batting order with Ivan Herrera up to the plate once again, and this time on a 3-2 pitch with the bases loaded. Ball 4 is called on a breaking ball from Gallen. Of course, the former Cardinal farmhand that was involved in the Marcell Ozuna trade along with Sandy Alcantara, originally with the Marlins, and then the Marlins swapped him to the D-backs all those years ago. And Gallen's been a pretty good pitcher for them for a number of years, but this year he's struggled. And tonight looked like he was cruising along until the Cardinals got to him in that sixth. That has been a trend for the Cardinals this season, to be able to chip away at an opposing starter of some quality and make sure that their last opportunity against him is some of their finest work. Where, this easily could have been a 6 shutout inning type of outing from Gallen, who ended up throwing 100 pitches, so that probably would have been his final inning of work anyway. But for the Cardinals to continue chipping away, and Gallen gets done in by some walks in this game, 4 total walks, and the one that allowed Ivan Herrera to push across a run with his walk. And then a couple of batters later, you had Nolan Arenado come through with the swing of the game. It was a fly to deep left center, and it seemed like off the bat one of those where I'm sure, again, I was not at Busch Stadium, but I'm sure that Arenado felt like he got all of it, and something about this ballpark seems to cause those types of hits to die at the warning track when the conditions at Busch are just so. And it did, but Alek Thomas was not able to make what I would have considered to have been a plus defensive play. He sprawled out for the baseball and just could not quite corral it, and then actually kicked it off of whatever, his glove, whatever body part it ended up kicking away toward the left field corner. And Arenado was able to make third. So I believe they did credit him with a triple for that because it was just an outstanding effort from the center fielder for Arizona. Alek Thomas was just unable to come up with the ball, and in the process of his dive, kicked it away. And so there's no error associated with that. It's a legit triple for Nolan Arenado. And basically, the most important part, clears the bases, all 4 runs, come around to score against Gallen in that inning, 3 on that specific play. And the Cardinals staked out the 4-1 lead. You got pretty much what you were looking for from your bullpen, Jojo Romero and Kyle Leahy, up until Ryan Helsley gives up a long home run, I believe one that landed in Big Mac land, it did appear. Just stayed fair inside the left field pole, which is maybe why, I guess, Big Mac land is technically one section to the right of that, but it's the same level. So similarly impressive as Gaby Marino was able to come up with a pinch hit opportunity there and make the most of it. But the next batter popping out, Corbin Carroll, had a rough night, 0 for 5 ultimately, and the Cardinals able to secure that 4-3 win. It was a little bit more adventurous and exciting than you were probably hoping for, but Ryan Helsley, no worse for the wear as the Cardinals win it 4-3. His ERA, though, is up to 3.71 for the season. Just something to keep in mind as far as his potential trade value goes, it's something that, potentially teams are going to be monitoring him. But ideally, the Cardinals aren't in a position where they're looking to move him. I know that they're supposed to from like a business standpoint, but right now 5 games above 500, and certainly I think the Cardinals are playing a style of baseball that indicates they should be in the mix for the long haul in the National League. Once again, do not look at the standings because the Cubs beat Cincinnati by a touchdown. They continue to play in the midst of a very, very favorable schedule, and so it's going to get worse before it gets better when it comes to the Cardinals' deficit in the Central. But Cardinals, 28 wins, 23 losses. They are 5 games above 500 and still looking like that team that we have been praising as a contender over the last couple of weeks as they have really surged throughout the month of May. You lose a series to the Tigers, and a few people in the comments section here on YouTube, which, by the way, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube or at least following the B-Schaeff Daily Podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Go ahead and do that now, because we're giving you St. Louis Cardinals content every single day. And when it's not every single day, it'll be the next day. Yesterday, we didn't do a podcast because there was an off day and just did not get around to making it happen, but have had some recent articles go up to sportshubstl.com, so you can check those out. We did post a little bit of something to the YouTube channel, not the B-Schaeff Daily Show, but from the big show on KTGR, some other Cardinals talk earlier on Friday to get people through. But generally, yes, we're going to be rocking and rolling every single day. Even this weekend, as I go out of town for heading up to the family farm, I'll bring the laptop and stuff, and we'll make sure to record. It may not be overnight, but by the next morning, we'll have something up. So stay tuned to the channel for all of that. But anyway, doubling back to what I was going to say, the YouTube comments on the previous podcast where I had basically titled the video asking if people were concerned about the series loss to the Tigers, which I acknowledged was the Cardinals' first series loss in nearly a month. I did not indicate in that video anywhere that I was concerned or that I thought Cardinals fans should be, but sometimes when you have a daily podcast, you're looking for the hook, and the hook was, hey, all right, series loss, everybody on the same page here, Cardinals are still in good shape, we're good, we can move forward here, and the consensus from that podcast was yes, and so the Cardinals continued putting their best foot forward in the matchup on Friday night, and I, again, have just been so impressed by Miles Mikolas. He goes 6 innings, gives up the 1 solo shot to Ketel Marte, 4 hits allowed, just 1 walk, so he's taking care of the baseball and commanding the strike zone. 4 strikeouts in this one. Miles is never going to be a massive swing and miss guy, but man, he improved the record to 4-2, and it's just been, I think, a pretty big part of the Cardinals turning from where they had been. Remember, they were 14-19 at one point, and since then, they're now on a run, if I'm doing some quick math, of 14-4. So 14 wins was half of the season win total, because now they're up to 28, and they had accumulated 19 losses to get to those 14 wins the first time through, and then the second 14 of the year has been accumulated during a stretch where they have only lost a total of 4 games. So, yes, the Cardinals have drastically turned things around, and as Miles Mikolas has been a big part of that, I just wanted to highlight, when you thought about how long it took the Cardinals to get a win in a Mikolas start this year, you had the 10-inning game against Los Angeles, his first start of the season on that opening homestand, and he pitched okay in that one. Didn't get a quality start, but 5 1/3, 2 runs. The Boston game came after that, and then it was a string of a couple of starts where Mikolas wasn't getting very deep into games, but he was giving you a chance. 3 runs allowed, 2 runs allowed. And then from there, man, he's really even been better. 6 shutout, 5 1/3 shutout, had another kind of average start, 5 innings, 3 runs. And then he has since gone 5 1/3, 1 run, 6 innings, no runs. And tonight, 6 innings, 1 run allowed. Miles Mikolas has been fantastic. And it took up until the 30th of April, part of a doubleheader against the Reds, where the Cardinals won their first game that Miles Mikolas started. The team was 0-5 in his first 5 starts, and they have since won now 5 consecutive Miles Mikolas outings. And Baseball Reference, there's a glitch going on for Baseball Reference because I'm normally able to do some arbitrary endpoints by compiling the stats from a certain range of games, but when I click, it ain't working, and it says he had a 3.6 ERA before today, so there's some glitching going on with the Mikolas page there on Baseball Reference. But my point is, 0-5 for the Cardinals in his first 5 starts, 5-0 in his last 5 starts. That's exactly what you want to see. Miles Mikolas really turning things around in a significant way. Not a ton the Cardinals were able to do against Gallen tonight, but we mentioned with just chipping away and Arenado coming up with the big swing. It was nice to see that fall through for Arenado. Like, this game completely changes potentially if that ball doesn't find the grass, and Arenado needed a swing like that. Gets the OPS up above 700. Was batting sixth again in the lineup tonight. We will see moving forward how he's able to continue to progress. Nolan Gorman, by the way, got the start. And, boy, over 3, 2 strikeouts. I just don't know how much longer it's going to make sense for the Cardinals to continue doing this with Gorman. Talked a little bit about it on the Big Show earlier today, and I would recommend going back to watching that video on the YouTube channel where I titled it something about the St. Louis Cardinals trio still looking for playing time, who should play the most. Dove into kind of my thoughts on Nolan Gorman's future. I won't get into it too much here because I'd love for you to go check out that video. It's about 19 minutes long, but some good conversation with my co-host, Andy Humphrey. I'm not really even 100% convinced that there's anything Nolan Gorman could do at this point to solidify his spot on the 2026 Cardinals. Like, there's runway and there's a lot of season left to be played, and I do believe there's going to be a stretch where he will get opportunity. It may come after a demotion to Memphis at some point, and then the rebound is to see if it can stick for him. But, man, even if at that point it does, what do the Cardinals do? Do they just say, all right, is that an opportunity to trade him, or, do they buy back in? It's just very, very difficult right now. Gorman looks just, it doesn't look good. So we'll see what happens there ultimately, but I kind of understand right now what Oliver Marmol is doing. You're going to look for opportunities for Walker to play, and they're going to, I think, try to find opportunities to get Burleson in there as well. Now, it is something we should note. There was a late scratch from the lineup. Burleson was originally going to be in right field. They ended up scratching him, they ended up scratching Wilson Contreras, who dealt with some back spasms before the game. And as a precaution, labeled by the Cardinals, they pulled him from the action, which allowed for Gorman to get in there at second base. Burleson shifting from right field to first, and they moved Nootbaar to right field. He was originally slated to be in left field, I believe, in the lineup. So a lot of moving parts ended up happening there with Donovan shifting to left as well. Donovan was 0 for 1 in the game, but reached base a couple of times via walk and scored a run as well. Ivan Herrera was 0 for 3, but of course had the big RBI walk that led to the Arenado RBI swing. Not a ton of hits tonight for the Cardinals. Mason Wynn had one. Victor Scott had a couple. Good to see from him. And the big swing from Arenado. Just 4 hits for the Cardinals. Reached base via 4 walks. And ended up being enough. So a lean offensive performance tonight from St. Louis. But once again, what matters in the end is getting that W. And the Cardinals were able to do that. So we'll look forward to Game 2 coming up on Saturday afternoon. That one will be back on FanDuel Sports Midwest for those who were missing that on Friday night with yet another Apple game. Kind of unusual to have 2 Apple TV games this early in the season, it would seem. But that was the case for the Cardinals and Diamondbacks on Friday night. I want to take a moment to complain. I think the new MLB, if you guys use a computer or a desktop to look up baseball stats, the new, and MLB.com does this seemingly every year. And guess what? I'm not an MLB.com employee, so I'm just going to say it. It completely sucks, the changes that they have made to their website. Because you go to Cardinals.com, good luck trying to find the probable pitchers for the next day's game. It used to be super doable, and now it's completely impossible. So anyway, just looked it up on my phone. That's my rant. Matthew Liberatore going against Merrill Kelly on Saturday. I just want to be able to glance at that and tell you guys who the probables were and move on with our lives. Anyway, didn't get to do that, but now we will move on with our lives by going down on the farm. It's time to go down on the farm. Brought to you by Hastings Layers Premium Eggs.
You'll be happier than a jackass eating thistle.
Huh? Well, if you thought the big league Cardinals struggled offensively with only 4 hits tonight, you won't love to hear what the Memphis Redbirds were up to offensively. Just 2 hits in that lineup, although they did come up with 6 walks collectively. Brian Torres had 3 of them, 1 apiece for Lucan Baker and Michael Ciani, but the Redbirds came up with just 1 run in this game, an RBI hit by Matt Koperniak, as they drop it to the Jumbo Shrimp of Jacksonville by a score of 3-1. Alex Cornwell didn't pitch too bad, but he took the loss. 5 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs. Ryan Fernandez, notable from the bullpen usage of the Memphis Redbirds tonight, recorded 4 outs. He had an inning in a third, walked a man, but struck out 3. So a much improved performance from Ryan Fernandez, who I still do believe is going to make his way back to the Major League Cardinals at some point this season. Nick Anderson, an inning of work, scoreless, and struck out a couple of batters. So good to see from him on the pitching side of things. Double-A, the Springfield Cardinals had a much more eventful game. 9-8, the winners were the Springfield Cardinals in 10 innings, as they scored a couple of runs in the top of the 10th and were able to hold the Tulsa Drillers to just 1 in the bottom half of that inning. It was a day off for J.J. Weatherholt. He was out of the lineup, but Nathan Church continues to rake. 3 for 6 for him and had 3 total bases, so just 3 singles. But he's still rocking that 986 OPS with a 351 batting mark. So, again, I think he's somebody that we'll see him hopefully in AAA Memphis before too terribly long. Really looks to be hitting well against Double-A pitching. Menlinger was 2 for 3, scored a couple of runs, and also reached base twice via walk. So a nice day for him as the Springfield Cardinals racked up 12 total hits, 8 walks, tons of base runners and opportunities in this one, and ultimately, they took enough advantage. That does mean the pitching was a little bit rough, though, but that's just the nature of the beast sometimes in the minors when you get into those slugfests. But good to see the Springfield Cardinals come out on top, 23-20, their record on the season, as they stand at 3 games above 500. That is going to do it, though, for this edition of the show on a Friday night. Appreciate you guys for staying with me, and stay tuned to the channel for more. It may be Sunday morning before I am able to record regarding Saturday afternoon's affair, but looking forward to seeing what Matthew Liberatore is able to produce for the Cardinals. And, man, it'd be great to see them be able to get the win on Saturday to secure not only a series win against the D-backs, but would guarantee at worst a split of the homestand and then get an opportunity to go for the sweep on Sunday. Would be a lot of fun this Memorial Day weekend at Busch Stadium. Let me know if you're planning to head to the ballpark for this Memorial Day weekend. I bet we're going to see some pretty good crowds on Saturday and Sunday as long as the weather cooperates. I know that's going to still be a bit of a factor. Then the Cardinals will be out to the East Coast in Baltimore on Monday for the actual holiday Memorial Day. And then when they return the next week to Busch, you get some really compelling matchups against the Royals and Dodgers. By then, I'm calling my shot. Busch Stadium is going to be rocking once again as long as the Cardinals just keep plugging away and playing this good brand of baseball that we're seeing. So, hey, hit that subscribe button so we can talk Cardinals together all summer long. That, though, is going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you guys so much for listening, as always. I really do appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time on b-schaeff Daily. Peace.